we're going to look at a few rate tables, and I suggest that you try to do them before I go over the solution so you can practice finding the rule and using the rule. So why don't you take a second and hit pause and solve this problem on your own. All right, so when you solve this problem, we should see that the rule from 15 to 30 is times by 2. So we would have to multiply this by 2 as well. Okay. And then going to 2, I'm going to take my 4 and say 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 15 divided by 2. Now, we can do 15 divided by 2 and do long division. What I would suggest we do instead is to look at it as 15 divided by 2 like this. Okay? And then we can change this into a mixed number of 7.5. So it really avoids any long division, and long division can be error prone, so you can make some more common mistakes when you do long division. All right, I'm going to get down to 1. Now I can use any of these numbers to get down to 1. I'm going to use the 4, but you could have used the 8 or the 2. So to get from 4 to 1, I would divide by 4. So I have to divide by 4. So 15 divided by 4 is going to be 15 over 4. And that's equivalent to 3. So, and that would get me up to 12. And we would have 3/4 left over. So that means we would have 3 and 3/4 here. All right, and then we have our last entry in the box is 60. And I think it's the easiest connection is to go from 30 to 60, but you could have done 15 as well. So times by 2, and we get 16. All right, take a look at this one. Again, hit pause, try this on your own, and then I'll go over it. All right, so we should see that the connection from 1 to 3 is timesing by 3. So I would have to multiply the 12 by 3. We get 36. I'm going to scale from the 1 down to a half. So I know that half is half of 1. So I would divide by 2. And I get 6. Okay. Now I have to connect with this 4, so I need to look at my other numbers in the time and see which one I think has the easiest connection with 4. And I think the easiest connection with 4 would be the 12. So I'm going to use 12 and scale it down to 4 by dividing by 3, which means I have to divide this by 3. Okay. Now, again, we can do 1 divided by 3 and find out what that is as a decimal, but you're really doing more work than you need to, because we can just look at the division like this and say it's a third. So we can say that in 4 minutes, I'd be able to run a third of a mile. All right, and our last one is to get down to 1. So I am going to use I'll use the 12, so I'll think 12 divided by 12 gives me 1, and so I'd have to do 1 divided by 12, and again, we could do long division, but we don't need to, because we can think of it as 1 divided by 12 like a fraction, and that would be 1/12. In 1 minute, I can do 1/12 of a mile. All right, this is the last one that will be on the recording, so go ahead and hit pause, try this on your own, and then I'll show you how I solved it. All right, so from 5 to 10 is timesing by 2. So 2 times 2 would give me 4. All right, now the connection to 10 would be 2 times 5. So I would have to multiply this one by 5. And 5 times 5 is 25. Okay. All right, to get down to 1, we can use any number. So I always suggest to try to find the smallest number. So to go down to 2, so to use the 2 and the 5. Since they're both whole numbers, it's pretty straightforward. If my smallest number was 2 and the number of tomatoes was a fraction, I probably wouldn't pick it because it would make it more complicated. So I'm going to go down to 2 and think 2 divided by 2 gets me to 1. So I have to do 5 divided by 2. So 5 divided by 2 is 5 over 2. And as a mixed number, that is 2 1/2. All right, and our last one that we have to look at is for 5 cloves of garlic. So really we could do a couple different ways. So I'm looking at it right now and I can find, a connection from 1 to 5 or a connection from 10 to 5. And I think I'm going to try 10 to 5. So 10 to 5 would be dividing by 2 or taking half of it. So I would want to take half of 25. So 25 divided by 2 is going to be 25 over 2. And then we just have to think how many times 2 goes into 25. Okay. And so it goes in 12 full times. And we'd have a half left over. So 12 1/2.